One, two, three, toss. Hey everyone, I'm Jenna.
And I'm Kendall.
And we're Gearheads here at Backcountry, and today we're going to be talking to you about some of the best ski boots of 2025.
We have top picks for men and women across all mountain, powder, freeride, touring,
carving, beginner, and park and pipe.
We have picks for everything skiing and snowboarding in our ski and ride guide. Check that out up here.
And we will also add chapter timestamps down below, so feel free to move about, find kind of the boot that you're looking for, and let's just get into it. Okay, so we're gonna start with our all mountain picks. So Kendall, why don't you tell us about the boot that you have there?
For men's, we have the Rossignol Vision 4B Pro. This is a 120 flex boot, great for that all mountain spot because it's like kind of aggressive, but still towards the middle, not over the top. This is a classic two-piece shell construction with 4 micro adjustable buckles. You see a heat moldable liner here. So a little bit of customizability. No walk mode on this, guys. It's going to be for the resort.
What about the last on this boot?
So this is going to be a 100 millimeter last. This is good for your mid-volume foot. And this is a great pick for all mountain because it's stiff but not too stiff. It's easy to use. It's simple. It doesn't have a walk mode. You know, if you're not interested in doing any touring, this is a really easy pick. It's going to be great for powder, great for carving. It's got a really nice warm liner, so you can use it, you know, anywhere in the world. Rossignol's been in the boot game for a long time, so I think they really know their feature set well. They know what to offer, and this is a boot that's held tried and true for all mountain. All right, Jenna, what do you have over there for your women's all-mountain pick?
The Technica Mach BOA 105 high volume. A lot flexier than that last boot that we were talking about. So the 105 flex is gonna be a little bit more in between for our women here, a little bit easier to flex. And with that high volume, we've got a last of 103. This is gonna be a higher volume boot, which is gonna be better for someone with a little bit of a wider foot or maybe a higher instep. And then something that's kind of cool about this is while you have the BOA, which is all the rage right now, you can go both ways. So going this way, making a micro adjustment to loosen it, or the other way to fully tighten. That way you don't have to just fully loosen the whole thing and restart when you want to do those micro adjustments. And then we've got the 2 buckles up top. And then if we look towards the back of the boot, we can see that we do not have walk mode on this one, which really just means, you know, this is gonna be great for your all mountain skiing. You're not touring in this thing, you're really just like going across every bit of the mountain. Both the shell and the liner that come in this are gonna be heat moldable, so really dialing in your fit for yourself, which I could never not recommend enough for someone. I mean, that just really helps you get the perfect fit so that you are just as comfortable while riding.
Yep, great feature, and it's worth it every time.
Yeah, so I would say with kind of that mid-level flex, that 105 with the high volume, across the board, a really good all-mountain boot that's gonna get you from point A to point B. You're not touring in this thing, but you're gonna be comfortable the whole time you're going across the mountain.
Plus it's got that sweet new BOA dial if you want to try it.
Really nice for the micro adjustment. Moving into our powder category, why don't you tell us about the boot that you have there in front of you?
Right here we have the Lang Shadow 130 boot. This is a hard charging boot for the dedicated skier, definitely. I think Lang is a really cool pick for powder just because you're gonna get a lot of performance out of any Lang boot because they make ski boots and that's all they make. So they're kind of all in when it comes to ski boots. This Shadow model is gonna be 130 flex, so that's as stiff as they come in most scenarios. Some brands like Lang do a 140, but this is definitely a plenty stiff boot. Getting into the last, this is a 100 millimeter last, so this is again for that mid-volume foot shape. A good place to start too if maybe you're not sure where you're at. I'd also encourage everyone to go see a boot fitter to determine your last if you're not sure. And then from there we have a heat moldable shell and liner here, so lots of customization options. So really nice, fully featured boot from Lang here. You get micro adjustable buckles, big burly 45 millimeter power strap. This is gonna be a great pick for powder. I also have found these Lang liners to be pretty warm, which is really nice for a powder boot. Obviously you're getting out there when the snow's still falling, which can often be pretty cold, especially here in the Rocky Mountain West. So yeah, that's kind of a wrap for this Lang Shadow boot. What about the women's pick?
For the women's, we have the Salomon S Pro BOA boot, and this one is going to be a 105 flex. So again, not quite as stiff as the other one, which is gonna be nice. It's gonna allow you to really push into the boot when you're going through surfing some powder, getting things like that. The last on this one is gonna be a 100 millimeter, kind of similar to this one in that mid-volume. This boot is gonna have a lot of cool versatility to it. So on the back here, you have this dial that says direct or progressive, and that's gonna be pertaining to the flex. So say you have a couple different pairs of skis, you have a couple different varieties of powder days that you're skiing, you can work with this and adjust this to kind of see how you want that flex to feel. If you want a more direct flex, if you want a more progressive flex, this is gonna be really great for kind of dialing in what works best for you on those powder days.
Rad feature for sure.
So similar to our last one, we're gonna have this BOA dial, which same thing, you're gonna get those micro adjustments going one way and then the full closure going the other way with the 2 buckles on top. And additionally, this one does not have walk mode, so you're not gonna be seeing this as a touring boot whatsoever, but truly, I would say with this flex dial in the back and with that kind of mid-volume sizing and everything, like this is gonna be really great in the powder. It's gonna really perform well for you.
Yeah, versatile for sure.
All right, let's get into some of our Freeride picks. Let's start off with the men's.
For sure, this is probably the boot that I'm most excited about this year. This is the Salomon Shift Alpha BOA 130 boot. This is a boot that's kind of been missing from the Salomon line for a few years now. They've had a few 100 millimeter last boots in the Shift line, but this is the first 98 millimeter last boot in the Shift line. So this is gonna be good for that narrow, lower volume foot shape and great for the, those skiers to have a nice tight fit that lets them ski aggressively. At 130 flex, this is gonna be a pretty hard charging boot, and this is also going to be a touring capable boot. So we have the walk mode back here. I think this is really easy to use compared to some other brands that we're seeing in the current market. So that's always nice to see. I mean, this is something that you're typically adjusting many times throughout a day of touring, so it's always nice to have one that works really well. Aside from that, we're gonna see that BOA adjustment dial here on this boot. I really like this feature. I was able to ski it for the majority of last year in a different boot, and I find that I think it tightens a little bit more evenly on the forefoot compared to like a traditional buckle system. Moving up the boot a little bit, we have a pretty cool like cinch style strap here, so just a little bit nicer. You can probably get it a little bit tighter than your typical hook and loop style strap. This walk mode provides a 55-degree range of motion, which is actually pretty good, especially for a boot that has this kind of downhill capability. Being 130 flex, having a pretty robust buckle dial system. And then this cinch strap also, I mentioned earlier, it's also gonna outlast those hook and loop style straps really well. Also good for touring. You just end up spending a lot of time in the boot, I feel like, in the backcountry, so it's a nice feature. Aside from that, this is also gonna be a heat moldable shell and liner, super customizable. I mean, this is kind of like your top tier Freeride boot. It's got all the bells and whistles. I'm super excited about it. What's going on the women's side?
We have the K2 Mindbender in the 115 flex, which I'm really excited about. I think that a 115 flex is a really good flex rating for women for Freeride, because you think about like hitting cliffs, hitting drops, things like that.
Yeah.
You don't want a super flexy boot that you're just gonna flex right out of and kiss your face to your tips, you know? You want something that's definitely gonna hold you in. And so the last on this is actually gonna range from a 97 to a 100. So we can go from a low volume to a mid volume fit, which is really great. Really allows a lot of people to get into this boot. As we've kind of talked about before, we're gonna start with this BOA dial down here at the bottom with the micro adjustments and the full closure. And then we also have these buckles, and kind of just like yours, we have the cinch strap up top. So you can either push this down to loosen it or just pull it back. Really allows you to get a little bit tighter than that Velcro power strap, which, like we talked about, is also going to last a little bit longer because we also have walk mode on this boot. This is definitely a hybrid boot. Going downhill, you're gonna feel like this is just as close to an all-mountain boot without the pins and everything. Like, you're still just gonna feel really safe and enclosed in it, but at the same time, on that uphill, you're gonna have a ton of movement, a ton of room to like really dial in the skin track.
Yeah, great option for like the one boot quiver person who wants to do it all in the same boots all year long.
It's gonna be really ideal, and it's gonna hold you on the uphill as well.
Well, speaking of uphill, let's get into our touring boots.
1, 2, 3, toss. All right, we're talking about our best touring boots. These things are super light, so let's start with the men's.
Moving into our first boot, we have the Dynafit Ridge Pro. This is gonna be a stripped down touring boot to achieve the ultimate lightweight performance, but still pack a ton of features so that you feel like you can make it down whatever you climb your way up. This is gonna be a 120 flex with a 101 millimeter last. So that's on the stiff side as far as touring boots go, but keeping in mind that the rating with a touring specific boot might might not translate to the flex rating that you'll think of with like an all mountain boot. So I wouldn't describe these as overly stiff by any means. 101 millimeter last, that's gonna be a nice mid volume option, just a little bit maybe towards the high volume. So maybe if you are like low or mid volume, you could choose this boot. If you're low volume, you might want a little bit of extra room. It's gonna be more comfortable when you're making your way uphill on the skin track all day. Moving into the closure system, this has the smaller touring specific BOA dial that just basically gives you that same great dial fit adjustment, just with a little bit less weight. You're not gonna get the micro adjust feature for loosening on this one, only for tightening. Moving up the boot from there, we have this ratchet style strap. This is pretty cool because I think it's just a little bit quicker to work with compared to like a traditional buckle. Moving up from the BOA dial, we have this ratchet strap that's gonna be really easy to use. You can quickly tighten, lock down, and then once you're ready to go back uphill, you can loosen and just easy, quick release that tab and you're back on your way up with lots of room. Big, easy to operate walk mode lever. Could easily do this with big expedition gloves or mittens on, no problem. It's totally oversized. And then you might also notice too when you're operating that walk mode lever, it automatically loosens your top strap for you. Again, this is just gonna make for really quick and easy transitions similar to the other closure systems on the boot. And then that being said, this power strap is still totally adjustable. So lots of options there for, you know, trying to really speed up your transitions. Aside from that, you're gonna see a heat moldable liner on this boot for a little bit of customizability. And it is just staggeringly light. It's almost unbelievable. So this thing will definitely leave you flying up the skin track. Another thing to say, this is that well-known Hoji walk mode lever. So if you've seen this on other boots in the past, then you're used to it. It's gonna operate in the same way. And then this boot in a size 26.5 is gonna come in at 1,250 grams. So proper light, really cool. What do we have going on for women's?
For the women's, we're gonna have the Technica Zero G Tour Scout boot. This one, no BOA on this one. We're gonna have our 4 buckles, which are really great for making micro adjustments. You have a bunch of different options here. So you're gonna get those all tightened up. And then we will also have our power strap on the front, which just really allows for tightening, getting that perfect feel, whether you're on the uphill or the downhill. And then obviously, most importantly, we're gonna be looking at that walk mode. So again, kind of like you said with yours, I really like kind of these bigger levers. That way, when you are on the uphill, you know, this thing isn't just gonna get like slightly knocked down, it's going to stay up. You're not gonna be fighting yourself trying to be in and out of walk mode. When you flip this down, there is one last little micro claw that you just kind of lift that to make sure that that's fully in place so that you know that you are definitely in ski mode and not walk mode when you start your descent. So instead of the traditional buckles, we're gonna have these more lightweight loops, just to save you a little bit of weight on that uphill. And so this boot is coming in at 1,280 grams. And this is the 24.5, so really light boot, kind of like what we were talking about before. And then additionally, this is coming in a 120 flex and a 99 millimeter last. So a really good flex amount, which I think is great for both uphill and downhill. You're gonna be held in nice, tight, and snug, but still be able to flex on that downhill and really push into your turns. And then that last coming in at kind of the mid volume, really gonna be great for kind of all around. This tour boot is really gonna get you uphill just as well as it's gonna get you downhill.
Yeah, it looks like it is a strong performer.
Definitely. Well, should we move on to our next category?
Yeah, carving, right?
Yeah. All right, you think carving, you think classic skiing. These are some pretty classic boots here. Let's talk about the men's. What do you have there?
Over here we have the Fisher RC4 MV Pro BOA boot. This is a pretty exciting model from Fisher that offers some really cool features. Getting into the features of this boot, this is gonna be a 140 flex, which is crazy stiff. It's about as stiff as boots come.
And then I see that ZipFit liner, so I can only imagine that's gonna stiffen it up just a bit more.
Yeah, and so this is actually like a dedicated race boot, but it would be super fun to use as a carving boot as well. Going along with those race style features, we're also gonna see a 96 millimeter last. You don't see that every day. That's gonna be really snug, great for a low volume foot. Gonna give you really good boot feel, really good edge control, just oozing performance. And then
feel every turn that you make.
Exactly. We have this BOA dial. So this is definitely like a fully featured top tier boot. This BOA dial is going to give you adjustment in both directions. And then I think another cool thing to call out with these dials is they're really durable. I actually knocked one off last year on a couple different occasions. And because of the cable, they stay attached to your boot if they do get knocked off. And you just pop them right back into place. And so I don't know, I actually really prefer it. I'm someone who typically breaks at least a couple buckles every year. And so this is way easier for me to deal with than a broken buckle because you just put it back on. It's really great. Moving on, we have the two-piece shell construction, and then we have the two buckles up top, along with the BOA dial. This ZipFit liner is definitely a noteworthy feature. These things have like a pretty crazy cult following. I believe they actually use cork in the liner, and that's gonna give you really good vibration damping technology. They also add a good bit of weight, and so I think if you're really, really looking for every ounce of performance you can get, weight adds a lot of stability, and so I think that's a bonus too for someone who really wants to charge downhill.
Cork is gonna make that liner last a lot longer, so usually when you kind of get that feeling that you're swimming in your boots after a season, I think that cork is gonna really hold that shape for a lot longer so that you don't really get that, ooh, it's the end of the season boot feeling.
Yeah, it's not gonna pack out like your standard, EVA injected foam. Moving up the boot, we have this cinch power strap. So this is just gonna give you more tightening ability. You can really cinch this thing down when you need to, and then quickly loosen it on the fly really easily too. It's not like you have to fully reset the strap like you would with your typical hook and loop. And plus you get this really awesome lime green colorway that nobody's gonna miss in the lift line.
Definitely sounds great for carving and racing, going fast.
Can't carve much harder than a racer would, and this is the boot for that. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the women's boot?
Yeah, so over here we're gonna have the Lang Shadow 115, and this is going to be a low volume boot coming in with a last of 97. So kind of like what we were talking about with that boot, it's definitely gonna be for your more narrow foot. The whole idea is that you're gonna feel every edge, you're gonna feel every turn. That's what you want. You're gonna be carving hard, laying trenches. So that 115 flex, definitely a little bit stiffer, but that's the whole thing, is that we want you kind of a little bit more upright, really leaning and pushing into those turns. Like if I could try and flex this, I would, but I definitely can't. And then additionally, we're gonna go back to kind of the classics. We're gonna have this 4-buckle fit, which it's a tried and true. There's a reason we love the 4 buckles. You can still adjust exactly to what you like, how you feel, really crank this boot down, get it tight on your foot. And then with our classic Velcro power strap, just kind of finish out, tightening, really holding your whole foot and shin in place, just like how we want. Lastly, we do not have a walk mode because you're carving, you're laying trenches, you don't care to walk mode, you're not going uphill. I think this boot is really gonna allow for you to feel your turns, which is exactly what you want in your carving boot. It may not be quite as much of a race boot as the one that you have there, but I still think that just going out, making some turns, having a lot of fun, like feeling every bit of your turn, this boot's gonna let you do it all.
Super high performance boots. Let's move on into our next category.
So we are moving into our park and pipe category. So let's talk about this boot that you have here in front of you, because I don't think I've ever seen anything like this.
Yeah, this is kind of exciting. So this is a boot from a new brand called Phenom. They have kind of originated as a sub-brand of Faction skis, and this is gonna be the FS 120 ski boot. As you might be able to tell just by the looks of it, a pretty dedicated freestyle boot. Only 2 buckles here, so super easy and really nice, especially if you're like hiking features. We have this unique kind of like rubber power strap that I've really never seen anything even like this before. I can definitely see the value of getting extra tight, and I think the idea of like having some elasticity as part of the strap makes sense too. Just kind of gives you like, you can almost adjust the flex at the top of the boot. So this is a 120 flex boot, so this is a good option I think for the more advanced freestyler. As far as park and pipe boots go, I think this is pretty stiff, but if you know that you want to send it big and have a little bit more resistance, then I think that 120 flex is a good fit. And this is going to be a 102 millimeter last, so kind of on the high volume side. I know some park skiers, even if they're like more mid-volume, will opt for that high volume boot because it gives them a little bit more comfort on those long days, and they'd rather have the comfort than like the edge feel and the performance, just for that style of riding. And we're also going to see the heat moldable liner and shell on this boot, so great customizability options there. What do you have for the women's boot?
So over here, we're gonna have the K2 Revolve Team Ski Boot, and this is kind of your very classic classic park boot. We've got the Intuition wrap liner with the 3-piece shell. This is what you think of when you think of a park boot. We're looking at a 110 flex, which I think is really versatile for park. I think it's gonna still kind of keep you upright in a nice way so that you're not flexing out of the boot, but at the same time really allow you to push into the boot for pop, nollies, things like that. Like this is really gonna allow you to flex into it while still holding you in place. We're gonna look at this buckle system. We have the loops down below here, and then, let's see. So same idea that we talked about where you can kind of loosen and tighten, and then really crank it down, get it to the feeling that you like. And then up top, we're going to have our same kind of cinch wrap that we were talking about. Again, really allow you to dial in that fit that you're looking for. And this one is gonna have a 99mm last. So a little bit more towards the lower volume. Great for people with a little bit more of a narrow foot. Great option, really gonna get you dialed in into the park. No walk mode, nothing like that. If you're in the park, you're not looking to go uphill. The most you're gonna wanna do is probably hike a feature, something like that. But again, with just the 2 buckles, you're gonna be able to undo those really easily, hike up your feature, crank them back down, head down the park. With this boot as well, you're gonna be able to fully customize this liner. It's heat moldable. We know that sometimes park likes to prioritize comfort, so really dialing in your fit, getting it heat molded, going to a boot fitter, making it feel the best for you. That way you can kind of, pop around the park, do what feels good for you. This boot's gonna be fun, comfortable. It's gonna be great.
Up next, we have boots for beginners.
Yeah, let's see those.
Okay, up first for our beginner boot for men, we have the K2 BFC 100 BOA boot. So this is a really cool option because it kind of brings the new BOA dial to a beginner platform. With this boot being a 100 flex option, it's good for maybe the lighter weight skier, but also maybe the beginner skier who just wants a little bit more flex to play with, something really easygoing, not something super demanding. 100 flex is gonna be great for that person. We're also gonna have a last width that's like a little bit adjustable. It's gonna be 100 to 103 millimeters. So this is gonna be for anyone from that medium volume foot shape up to a high volume. Aside from that, this is a very classic ski boot construction. We have a 2-piece shell. We have our 2 standard buckles up top, easy to use hook and loop strap. That's gonna make it easy to lock in, quickly adjust the fit at the top of the boot, and then you're gonna see a heat moldable liner and shell. Super rad option for the beginner. What about your women's boot?
Over on the women's side, we have the Salomon S Pro Supra 80 Flex. So this thing is really flexy. It's gonna be really forgiving, really great for the ideal beginner. The whole thing is, we want people to get into the sport. We don't want them immediately stepping into a boot and being like, this is the stiffest thing ever, I hate this. So I think this is gonna be really beginner friendly and really kind of give you that comfort that you're looking for when you're just getting into the sport. So the last width on this is gonna be about 100 millimeters, which is gonna fall right into that mid-volume category, which I think is really great. It's a little bit all-encompassing for different varieties and types of skiers. Overall, I would say this boot is really best for beginners. You're not dealing with all the extra frills or anything like that. You're not gonna have the walk mode. You have your very straightforward classic buckles. You got the 2-piece shell, a heat moldable liner, get that thing comfy, get that thing fitting to exactly how you want it so that when you're out there, you're on the slopes, you're learning, you're going from beginner to intermediate, you're feeling good, you're feeling confident. This thing is really gonna kind of take your skiing to the next level.
Right on, thanks Jenna.
Well, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Maybe let us know what boots you're kind of looking for this year, what you're stepping into.
Yeah, let us know if you have any questions. Definitely reach out to a gearhead if you're looking at boots, or maybe if you're looking at boot and binding compatibility, if you need help picking skis, whatever it might be, definitely reach out.
And in the meantime, we will see you out there.
You.